Hi, second graders, Miss Linder here. I'm going to read you a book called Comparing Animal Traits, Pleated Woodpeckers, Insect Hunting Birds. This is going to have to do with our science lesson on Monday, May 11th. Meet the pleated woodpecker. A pleated woodpecker grips the trunk of a rotting tree with its sharp, black claws. It hammers away at the wood with its beak. Pleated woodpeckers are birds. Other animal groups are fish, insects, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. Different kinds of birds share many traits. All birds are vertebrates, which means they have backbones. They are also warm-blooded. This means their bodies make their own heat. They keep a steady temperature even if the temperature of their surroundings changes. Most of the bird's skin is covered with feathers. All birds have 2 wings and a beak. Pleated woodpeckers share these characteristics with other birds, but some traits make the pleated woodpecker different from other birds. What do pleated woodpeckers look like? Pleated woodpeckers are large black birds. A bright red crest of feathers comes to the point of their head. White stripes zigzag down their neck. A curved line of white feathers can be seen on the underside of their wings while they are in flight. Pleated woodpeckers are one of the world's largest woodpeckers. From beak to tail, they measure 16 to 19 inches. They weigh 8.8 to 12 ounces and have a wingspan of 26 to 30 inches. Did you know there are more than 180 kinds of woodpeckers in the world? The pleated woodpecker is the biggest woodpecker commonly seen in North America. Pleated woodpeckers have strong, pointy beaks. They use their beak like a chisel, pecking away at wood. A pleated woodpecker hits its beak against trees up to 12,000 times a day. A section of its skull is made of a spongy bone. This bone helps absorb the impact of hitting against wood. Pleated woodpeckers versus great roadrunners. A greater roadrunner zooms through the desert as it hunts down a lizard. These speedy birds live in the northwestern United States and Mexico. Greater roadrunners share certain features with pleated woodpeckers. From beak to tail, greater roadrunners are about 21 inches long. They also have a crest of feathers. They can raise or lower their black crest to scare off predators or attract mates. Both species of birds have long beaks. Greater roadrunners use their beaks to kill prey such as snakes. Both birds also have long, stiff tail feathers. Pleated woodpeckers use their tail feathers to support their bodies against the trunks of trees. Greater roadrunners use their tail feathers for balance when running. Both birds have feet with 2 toes pointed forward and 2 pointing back. These X-shaped feet help woodpeckers climb up trees and logs. They keep roadrunners steady as they sprint. Did you know? Greater roadrunners aren't good flyers, but they can run up to 15 miles per hour. It's pretty fast. Pleated woodpeckers versus American flamingos. An American flamingo bends its long, curved neck to dip its beak into muddy water. American flamingos are much bigger than pleated woodpeckers. These flamingos are 36 to 50 inches tall. They can weigh 4.5 to 9 pounds. American flamingos are bursts of color. Their feathers are entirely pink except their black-tipped wings. Their legs and web feet are also pink. They sometimes stand on one of their long, slender legs. So let's compare it. This side is comparing the woodpecker to the American flamingo. You can tell they have difference in lengths. Flamingos don't have that spongy skull, and their legs are different. Where do pleated woodpeckers live? Pleated woodpeckers live in the wooded habitats in the United States and Canada. They look for forests with dead and rotting trees and logs. Rotting trees are easiest places for woodpeckers to dig out their main food. Carpenter ants. They also drill for other insects burrowed into rotting wood. They feed mostly on carpenter ants and beetle larvae. They also sometimes eat berries and nuts. Pleated woodpeckers live in the forest with large old trees at night. They sleep in the holes in trees that they've dug out for roosting. We talked about roosting with bats. A pleated woodpecker's habitat often includes a pond or stream. Birds fly to these bodies of water to drink. Pleated woodpeckers versus wood thrushes. Aole, a wood thrush loudly sings while perched in a shrub. Wood thrushes are chunky reddish-brown birds with spotted necks and undersides. The reddish-brown birds with spotted necks and undersides. Their habitat is similar to the habitat of pleated woodpeckers. Wood thrushes live in wooded areas in the eastern United States. Like pleated woodpeckers, they live in forests with tall trees. Wood thrushes also live near a source of water for drinking. They look for forests with moist soil and rotting leaves on the ground. It's here that they find most of their food. Wood thrushes are omnivores. Like pleated woodpeckers, wood thrushes eat fruits and nuts, but they mostly feed on insects. Pleated woodpeckers versus cactus wrens. A cactus wren sits atop a prickly cactus looking out over its desert home. Cactus wrens live in a hot, dry habitats with large cactuses, desert bushes, and other thorny desert plants. Cactus wrens rest in the shade of these plants during the hottest part of the day. Like pleated woodpeckers, cactus wrens are omnivores. They mostly feed on insects that scurry over the desert floor. They also eat berries from desert plants. Unlike pleated woodpeckers, cactus wrens don't live near streams or ponds. They get their water from the food they eat. So if we compare it, they live in different habitats, they look different, and they live in different parts, and their water source is different. So they're different. Pleated woodpeckers in action. Little by little, a pleated woodpecker carves out a hole in a rotting tree. When the hole is deep enough, the woodpecker pushes its tongue inside. With the pointed tip of its tongue, it probes for ants and pulls them into its mouth. A pleated woodpecker uses its powerful neck, head, and beak to drill holes into dead wood. The holes are shaped like rectangles. They can be more than 1 foot long. The woodpeckers use their sticky, spear-shaped tongues to search for insects tunneled into the wood. Did you know pleated woodpeckers drill such large feeding holes that they cause some trees to break in half? Pleated woodpeckers live in the same territory all year long. They often share the same area with a mate. Together, the pair marks the boundaries of their territory with sound. They drum loudly on trees at the edges of their territory. Pleated woodpecker versus great spotted woodpeckers. A great spotted woodpecker clings to the side of a tree. It uses its beak to pry up a piece of bark. Great spotted woodpeckers live in forests of Europe and Asia. They are also smaller than pleated woodpeckers. Great spotted woodpeckers cling to tree trunks with their legs wide apart. For added support, they press their tail against the tree. Pleated woodpeckers use the same stance to grip trees. Great spotted woodpeckers peck and pull at the bark of living trees. Their tongues capture insects just below the bark surface. Sometimes they dig deep holes in rotting wood to capture insects. Like pleated woodpeckers, great spotted woodpeckers live in the same territory year-round. They share this territory with a mate and then mark it with a drumming sound. So it looks like they almost eat the same food. Talks about how they hunt, and it talks about their tongues. Looks like their tongues are the same. The pleated woodpecker versus the snow geese. Feeding on tall grasses, a snow goose stands at the edge of a marsh. Snow geese are named for their snow-white feathers. They are herbivores. These geese feed on grasses and other plants near lakes, ponds, and marshes. A hungry snow goose yanks an entire plant from the ground and eats every part. Snow geese are excellent flyers. Unlike pleated woodpeckers, snow geese migrate. They fly thousands of miles in their winter and summer territories. They don't live alone or in pairs the way pleated woodpeckers do. Instead, they live and migrate in large flocks. Snow geese react differently to predators than pleated woodpeckers do. If a predator such as a hawk or owl comes near a pleated woodpecker, the woodpecker freezes and goes silent. If it is really threatened, it flies away. Snow geese have fewer predators than pleated woodpeckers. Snow geese can outrun many of their predators, but foxes and wolves prey on snow geese eggs. The life cycle of pleated woodpeckers. The life cycle of pleated woodpeckers begin in early spring. Both the male and female use their beaks to drum loudly on trees to attract a mate. Male and female pleated woodpeckers stay with the same mate for life. Pleated woodpeckers build their nests in holes they dig out of trees. In the nest, a female lays 3 to 5 white eggs. Both the male and female take turns incubating the eggs, which hatch after 15 to 18 days. They eat food that the adult woodpeckers regurgitate into their mouths. Pleated woodpecker chicks begin to grow feathers when they are about 7 days old. Young pleated woodpeckers are old enough to leave the nest by 28 days. They follow their parents around 2 to 3 months. During this time, they learn how to find insects and avoid predators. The young pleated woodpeckers reach adulthood the following spring, in time for the next mating season. Pleated woodpeckers live for about 10 years. Pleated woodpeckers versus eastern screech owls. An eastern screech owl roosts in a tall tree, blending in perfectly with tree bark. Eastern screech owls are named for their call, which sounds like a ghostly screech. Like pleated woodpeckers, male and female eastern screech owls mate for life. Both birds also use tree holes as nests. Eastern screech owls use old woodpecker nests or natural holes in trees. Female eastern screech owls lay 2 to 5 eggs, which hatch after 27 to 34 days. Like young pleated woodpeckers, the young eastern screech owls leave their nests after about a month. They stay with their parents for at least 2 more months. During that time, the young owls slowly learn to hunt. They are fully grown and ready to mate after 1 year. Eastern screech owls live for about 10 years in the wild. So if you compare it, here's the woodpeckers, here's the eastern screech owls. They live in the same type of hole. They have similar number of eggs they live, and they have the same lifespan. Pleated woodpeckers versus brown pelicans. A brown pelican flies high over the ocean, tucking its head into its body. It zooms down to catch a fish. Brown pelicans spend most of their lives on coasts near the ocean. When it's time to mate, they go to islands that are safe from predators such as foxes. Brown pelicans build nests of grasses and other soft plants, either in a tree or in the ground. Brown pelicans incubate their eggs by standing on them with their warm, webbed feet. The eggs hatch about 1 month later. By 3 months, brown pelican chicks are ready to set off on their own. They are ready to mate in 3 or 4 years, compared to just 1 year for pleated woodpeckers. Brown pelicans can live more than 25 years. And at the end, there's a glossary that talks about what some of the words are. And here's the woodpecker traits. You can see that all the birds we talked about are warm-blooded. They all have feathers, and they all laid hard shells. Okay, so now this book is complete. You are going to go back to your science assignment, and we're going to talk about that separately.